I'm going to call this council meeting to order. Victoria, would you give us the invocation, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and your many blessings. We thank you for blessing us with good health and the opportunity to serve our Cherokee citizens. We ask that you guide us and lead us with smart decisions and our manner and the way we speak, and everything we do would be pleasing in your sight. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, Shelley, will you do roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Keith Austin.
Here.
Danny Callison. Here. Julia Coates. Here. Sean Crittenden. Here. Joe Deere. Mike Dobbins. Here. Rex Jordan. Here. Johnny Kidwell. Here. Darrell Legg. Here. Wes Snowfire. Dora Petzkowski. Here. Joshua Sam. Here. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Melvina Shotpouch. E.O. Smith. Here. Condessa Teehee. Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
Okay. LA-04-20 allows councilors to remote attend the council meeting during extraordinary circumstances beyond the control of the tribal council. The current event of extraordinary circumstances is the pandemic of COVID-19. I need a motion to allow remote attendance. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? All right, Shelley, would you give roll call, please, for that?
Keith Austin.
Here.
All right, if you've had a chance to look at the minutes, I need a motion to approve or not approve. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. All right, for our State of the Nation address, we have Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin, Jr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to be before the council again for your regular council meeting. Some brief updates. We celebrated the 150th anniversary of Sequoia Schools. And what a great celebration it was. We committed a time capsule for the next 50 years, and the deputy chief and I will be in our 90s then, and we'll try our best to be there. I hope we can. But whether we're there or not, Sequoia will still be there. It'll be there because of the great legacy that already exists of serving an important mission, which is education. It'll also be there because of some actions that this council has taken, which is to commit, as we did last fall, $20 million to capital improvements. That will help secure a bright future for that fine institution. I recently traveled to Washington, D.C. in our ongoing effort to get our delegate seated in the House of Representatives. It's an important treaty right, as we've discussed many times. Our removal treaty, certainly a dark chapter in the history of this country, a source of pain for the Cherokee people because of what followed removal, or what followed the treaty, rather. But it lives on as the law of the land, and we need to remind the United States that, every letter of it, and that includes our right to a seat in the House of Representatives. We continue to make progress. I think the meetings we had were productive, and I think we're getting towards a point in time where things like a hearing before a congressional committee could happen. That's important. Our ultimate goal, of course, being the seating of Kim Teehee pursuant to that treaty, pursuant to our Constitution, and pursuant to the action of this body. You heard earlier something that's near and dear to my heart, which is a report on housing rehab. In 2019, the Deputy Chief and I worked with this council to commit historic amounts of money to something that is important, making sure we lift up our elders and Cherokees with disabilities and try to help all that we can in terms of addressing housing needs. And Councilor Legg had made mention in committee meeting that that was all tribal dollars. And we are living in a time period in which we have a great deal of resources coming from the United States in terms of COVID response, but it's important to remember that not too long ago, when we needed to find the dollars for these important initiatives, we looked to our business entities which continue to generate revenue for the Cherokee people so we can meet the expectations that they have, so we can meet the priorities that your constituents all send you here to meet, and that your constituents have also told me is important, and the deputy chief, and housing is chief among those priorities. I've heard a great deal over the years and recently about our efforts on housing. I've gathered many ideas from council members. I look forward to presenting some new ideas about housing in the near future, because I think there's more work to do. But I think it is worth at least spending some time reflecting on what we've done in the last 3 years, and I think we've done a great deal of good undertaking that effort to help those who need housing. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we are thankfully in a period of relative safety when it comes to COVID. It doesn't mean COVID's over, but it does mean the environment is much safer than it was. Here and around the country, we're looking, as we always have done, to public health authorities, Cherokee Nation health authorities, and federal health authorities. The CDC has recently issued some new guidance, for example, on masks, which we've all grown accustomed to. But the masking standard that the United States Centers for Disease Control uses now looks on a county-by-county basis, measures the spread, and that's measured by various statistics, and it makes a recommendation as to whether masking is warranted for a particular county. It's not completely in the green, green being the most favorable color in terms of COVID safety, but most of our reservation is moving towards that degree of safety in which mask would not be indicated for indoor activities and things of that nature. That means that our policies at the Cherokee Nation will be changing. We just sent an all-employee email out talking about that. In essence, Mr. Speaker, if the work site's in a county that is green and it's a couple of consecutive weeks, we will lose the mask for indoor interaction. Of course, if it starts to get more dangerous, we hope that it doesn't, but if it starts to get more dangerous in terms of spread, we hope there's not another variant that comes up and wreaks havoc. But if it does, we'll have to adjust accordingly the other way. But I think all of this means, Mr. Speaker, that we ought to evaluate all of our COVID policies, and that's what we're doing. And I appreciate the feedback I've gotten from members of this council, not only on masking, but other issues, including vaccines. I've had good conversations with Councilman Legg, not to highlight him twice in one State of the Nation, but had some very thoughtful commentary from Councilman Legg on this subject, and other council members as well. And it certainly gives me pause to think about how we can best manage what is a large workforce, keeping them safe, but also respecting the fact that we have to go about our lives. How do we balance those things? Well, safety will always be the first order of the day, Mr. Speaker. But as the environment gets safer, as the public health guidance informs our judgment that we can do things like gather together safer, we should do that. And so we also announced to our community organizations across the reservation, and that's some 30 organizations, Mr. Speaker, that operate community buildings, that there'll be more openness in terms of getting together, that the same masking standard I described earlier is something that we would have apply to the community buildings. What it means in short is there's going to be a lot more togetherness, a lot more opportunities to connect. I think you all have certainly done an extraordinary job during difficult times of connecting with your constituents, but I know you, and I served on this body. There's no substitute for getting together and having a community meeting. We know those will come back. They should come back. We want to support you all in making sure they come back in the safest way possible. We're going to continue to follow public health guidance, but that guidance informs us that we can all get together, do so safely, and we can do so in many cases without the mask. But I just want to thank you all for the support you've given the administration as we've navigated through some very challenging times in terms of the public health threat. The threat remains, but I feel like we're in a very good position to open up, but to continue to stay safe. Mr. Speaker, what for your time?
Thank you, sir. All right, action of unfinished business, none pending. Committee reports. Under our monthly report, we have our Cherokee Nation Business CEO Chuck Garrett. Chuck, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Good to be before you twice in one day. That's my report as I presented at DNF earlier today. Hasn't really changed, but I do want to mention a couple of things that others may not have seen or heard earlier today. Just a few quick updates. Certainly the financial results from our businesses have been extremely strong this first 4 months of the fiscal year. Very excited about what is ahead of us as well. Our workforce is coming back together, and we are experiencing some good momentum in our gaming business, as well as contract wins on our federal contracting side. So I think we all can feel really good about what's happened thus far this year, and very, very excited about the next quarter as well. Just a few non-financial related notices. I mentioned earlier that our CMB employees have rallied, as they always do, to volunteer for the Junior Achievement event Inspire this last month. We were able to be before the youth and show them and talk to them about opportunities and professions that they may not be aware of, and try to answer questions that may lead to their pursuit of those professions. Very excited. It's always rewarding and fun to talk to our kids and hear what's on their minds and where they're going with their careers. Chief mentioned 150th anniversary of Sequoia Schools. Our really talented cultural tourism group is opening It Takes a Nation, Sequoia Schools and the Roots of Excellence exhibit on March 15th at the John Ross Museum in Tahlequah. Hope you can make it out to see that. And lastly, the Will Rogers Downs will begin our spring meet this next week, and look forward to a strong field and some fun, and hopefully some good for the horse industry here in Oklahoma. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to answer any questions the council might have.
We have any questions for our CEO? It's good seeing you 2 times in one day, sir. Apparently there's no questions. You have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, old business, none pending. Under new business,
Mr. Speaker, I would like to amend the agenda in consideration of the following items 1 through 5, and there's a document provided in addition.
we have a motion and a second to amend, to add items 1 through 5. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Under the Rules Committee, number 1, Rex, would you take that, please?
Yes, this is a resolution confirming the reappointment of Marie Elizabeth Blue as a 5th member of the Cherokee Nation Election Commission, and I put that in the form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Is Maria here? Oh, here comes Cameron.
Mr. Speaker, she's not with us. She joined for committee today via WebEx, but was not able to join this evening.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Cameron. All right, under Rules number 2, Councilman Kidwell, would you take that, please?
It's a legislative act amending Title 18, Article 3, Section 18 of the Cherokee Nation General Corporation Act, expanding the access for Cherokee Nation citizens to the Cherokee Nation Health Services Hearing Aid Program, providing severability and declaring an emergency. I put this forward in form of motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 3, Victoria, would you take that, please?
Yes. This is a resolution authorizing the principal chief to submit certain grant applications and execute certain grant awards. Put that in the form of a motion.
We have a substitute document.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Who was the second on that? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to bring in the substitute document. All in favor? Oh, you have a question?
Quick question. I seen that we had some amendments made to that substitution, which I'm glad to see those were changed. I think the since this was just brought forward today in rules, there wasn't a whole lot of time to look over how we could change that. I do think that changes were made were good, except for I think there is one change that should be made that would not hinder them, which their big issue was, which was applying for grants. They were worried about missing that time window because they need to come to council to get the pre-authorization to apply for the grants. If we were to make a friendly amendment and strike the "and execute certain grant awards" from this, that would still allow them to submit certain grant applications, but then it would come back before council after they got awarded the grant prior to being executed. So that way, they don't have any problem running into timeframes on having to be able to apply for those grants, but it would still be able to be vested powers back to the council to be able to give the sovereign immunity before it gets executed. So that way it accomplishes both things. And I think if we struck that from the title, and then it would be be it resolved by the Cherokee Nation, it'll go on to say the designee who is chosen from the cabinet to submit grant applications, and then strike "and execute grant award agreements." That would clean that up, so that way we wouldn't run into any issues of giving up our full sovereign immunity and executing contracts. It would just allow us to still submit those grants, and they would have no problem down there with being able to do that. So that would be the friendly amendment that I would like to request be done on that. And I appreciate giving me time to bring that up, Speaker.
Yes, ma'am, you may.
That would be a real problem because you only have a certain amount of time to get those documents signed and get them back. Anyone that's dealt with grants knows that window is a whole lot shorter than the application window.
Just a quick response. That has never been an issue on getting those grants done in a timely manner. It's just been, she was just talking about the application process and having the pre-authorization to apply for the grants, and this would give her that. The execution process of it has never been a problem from this council, in my knowledge, or previous council's ability to give that ability of wavering sovereign immunity to execute that contract. And I've not seen a grant come forward to where it says, well, you've got the grant, but you need to execute it within 10 days.
The execution is the one that's also going to contain the assurances. If it's not contained on the front end, it's going to be on the back end. And I think Mr. Deere and I had a discussion on that.
Okay, is there anybody else? Joe Deere?
I just think I think I know where this is coming for, Councilor No Fire. In the highway and bridge highway, when they do this, the assurance part of it, I think what they're doing is trying to transfer what they do, because when we bid on highway bridge jobs for bonding, we have the assurance and have all that, and I think they're trying to adopt that system in their bid process where it excludes people, and so now they're trying to get ahead of it. So when we get those contracts, if we don't have our assurance in there, it will not let us click the button to submit our bid. So when you execute, it means you're basically doing, because you have your surety bonds and all that in highway bridge, and I think that's what the federal government is trying to do across the board, because this is the first time I saw this with this part, and I think that's where they're coming from, because of the execution part means you're basically accepting it. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to do what you're going to say, you know, and I think that's what they're doing, transferring across the board with highway and bridge, because the infrastructure money that come out and that's coming out, I think they're trying to, I don't know what you call it, make it where one system works for all their different contracts. Same thing when we had the Farmers to Family. They gave us the food, but it was contracted in Houston, and our Go Fresh people in Catoosa was delivering to Houston, but they were delivering Houston to Tulsa. So I think they're trying to fix their contracts, because I had a talk with USDA, and their contract process was all out of whack, because this person was doing it different in this region and this person was different. But the highway and bridge, I have people that bid against me in Kansas, Texas, and if we're all on the same page, I think that's where that process is. I was trying to tie in, we have to do that up front. And it also, the bonding, because you don't have to do bonding with them, but if you can't bond a $40 million job, one of the smaller jobs, you can't even bid it, and it gets rid of those people. So I think that's what they're trying to clear for. I just want to clarify, that's my opinion, what I think they're doing when it, on the federal side, allowing USDA and all the different ones with so much money coming out. So that's all, just my clarification.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
might add one other thing. We did check, and I think this was Councilor Coates' question. We have 14 state grants and about 25 local and private institution grants. We're checking them now, but it looks like they do not have the assurance requirement. So we'll be able to work around those, and those will probably come to you at some future date.
Julia?
Okay. I had just one clarification that I'm asking, because I was understanding that we were making this change because, Secretary, as you were saying, the assurance is being requested on the front end rather than the back end now, is the way on at least a couple of these federal, from these federal departments, these agencies, right? So can you clarify, because my understanding is execute grant award agreements is the back end, right? So,
The assurances, Counselor Coates, are on both the application now and on if you are successful for the grant.
so we have to make that assurance twice?
Yes.
I see, okay. Okay, thank you.
I think, I had some dealings with Department of Transportation, and I think now their assurances are beginning and end.
Yeah, because the ending part, when it comes to what I do, has to deal with the warranty. So when you do those surety and all those performance bonds, that's why they're in the front and the back, to be able to bid the job and then be able to secure that your work for the year, because basically you're the maintenance program, to make sure you have the money to back that on the end. That's why it's on the front and the back.
But we have limited, per my discussion with several of you, we took out the state, the local, and the private institutions because they're not up to date as far as asking for those assurances right now.
I do appreciate you and A.G. Hill making the changes that were requested and for listening to the concerns of the counselors today that were expressed to you. So I do thank you for that. Thanks.
Wes?
Just one quick thing, and I do thank you for making those changes and clarifying there's a front and back that has to be executed to apply for these grants. It moved really quick. I wish I had one of those applications in front of me so that way I could show my constituents, hey, this is the reason why they're wanting a waiver of sovereign immunity for all these different programs, because to them, it appears that we're giving the authority to execute the contract in two separate manners instead of, this is what we have to do to apply for the grant, is we have to show that we are actually ready to move forward with it. We're not just ready to apply, that we're actually already accepted the grant the moment that it gets awarded. So that's the only hindrance I have on it, just because my constituents are going to be there wondering, hey, do you have anything you can show us that they're actually doing with that forward? And my answer is, well, it kind of got brought forward one day, voted and passed all the way through full council. But I appreciate the work and the changes that you made. Appreciate it, Speaker.
Anybody else? Well, I just say that, like I said before during committee, it is good to get things early, but on occasion, things come to the attention later than we expect them to, and we do have to do things that to make things work. And this isn't the first time we've had to do things like this, and I'm sure it won't be the last, but for me, it's really not hard to support this because, most of our money comes from grants, and we really don't want to do anything to hinder our ability to get money which can directly go to our people or our programs. That's just the way I feel. Condessa?
I also want to echo my gratitude for the responsiveness and the time taken to share why this is so critical. With this being the thick of grant season, we could potentially lose out on the opportunity to apply for a number of grants were we to wait until March 31st. So I really appreciate the responsiveness from both you and your office and Ms. Knight and her division as well in answering the questions that we have as counselors and impressing upon us the critical need for this to go forward in the way that it has been brought forward. Thank you. Thank you for the time, Speaker.
Okay, is there anyone else? Julia?
Just one more quick thanks, because Mr. Young did a lot on this too, and I don't want to overlook his assistance with it today also. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we had a friendly on the floor, and for that friendly to be enacted, it has to be accepted by the motion and the second. And Victoria, you were the motion, so
Right.
do you accept that friendly?
No, I do not.
Rex? Okay. Friendly dies for lack of support. All in favor for this amendment? All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Number 4, Councilman Sam, would you take that, please?
This is an act amending Legislative Act Number 43-21, authorizing the comprehensive capital budget for fiscal year 2022, Mod 1, and declaring an emergency. And I put that in the form of a motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Number 5, Dora, would you take that, please?
This is an act amending Legislative Act Number 44-21, authorizing the comprehensive operating budget for fiscal year 2022, Mod 5. Is it a substitute? Substitute.
5A.
I'm sorry. 5A, and declaring an emergency, and I put that in the form of a motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion carries. Okay, are there any announcements? Danny?
I would like to offer the condolences of the council for a couple of Pocahontas members from our Claremore area, Celesta Manley and Judy Eagleton. Our condolences to their families. Thank you.
And I had somebody, Wes?
Yeah, we had a very good thing happen last Sunday. One District 3 representative, Jason Christie, won the Bassmasters Classic. I believe it was the first time that a Cherokee has won the Classic. It's the biggest sporting event in bass fishing that they have, and so just wanted to shout out to him. I think this Cherokee Nation Businesses, he's a sponsored athlete there, so it was a big thing, big day for him, big day for that recognition to have a Cherokee on that big stage. So just want to say shout out to him. Thank you, Speaker.
Victoria?
Yes, I would like to offer prayers and condolences to a couple of families in my district. These deaths happened since the last meeting, and the first one was Miss Jen McCord, who was a longtime member of the Welch area, and also her nephew. They died within a few days of each other. So we've had a couple of funerals, and it's been hard for our community because they were both upstanding citizens. Thank you.
Candace?
I just had a couple of announcements. One was that former Cherokee Nation Tribal Counselor Phyllis Yargy lost her son, Buddy. So I would like to offer our prayers and condolences to Phyllis and to her family for his loss. On a brighter note, I would like to offer our congratulations to Mr. Owen Teehee, who was recently accepted to West Point. He is a Cherokee citizen, and it is just such a wonderful achievement to be accepted to West Point, and just offer our congratulations to him.
Keith?
Yes, thank you, Counselor Callison, for highlighting Celesta Manley. I do want to point out the fact that she was a Cherokee National Treasurer as well.
Anybody else? EO?
Yes, on March 31st, cultural meeting's at 11, so we're going to have the livestock sports team meeting at 9:30, then that way we don't have to make an extra trip. We can do it at 9:30, then regular meeting start 11. Thank you.
Julia?
And I think we all share our thoughts with Counselor Dobbins for the loss of his father, Jack, as well, recently. And we all have you in our thoughts and our prayers, Mike. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, I'd just like to say, today was a good day. We had some good debate. Everybody, represented your thoughts well. We don't always agree here, but, everybody respected each other's opinions, and everybody got to say what they wanted to. It was a good day. Whether it went your day or not, or my way or not, good day. And this is what we're here for. It's to give our points of view. It's to let everybody know what we feel like. And we did that well today. And I'd just like to say thank you for being courteous to each other. And with that, I'd like to say the next Tribal Council will be Monday, April 11th at 5 p.m. Going to try to maybe get this thing moved down there at some point in time. It's where we need to be, if we can. So with that, I need one more motion. All right, second. All in favor? We're adjourned.